along here to do a screen recording of how to use your TI84 Plus on the AP exam. Or how to use it in general to solve problems. What we're going to do here is I'm going to work through a question, and then you're going to try something down here, okay? And these are old AP questions from 2012 in the Calculator Active Multiple Choice. So you can find those there and make sure that you have the correct answer. So here we go. The first practice we're going to do is finding zeros or x-intercepts on the graph and then evaluating derivatives at a point. So here's the first question. Determine the slope of the tangent to y equals sine of e to the x at its first x-intercept to the right of x equals 0. Okay, so a lot of this we could do with graphing calculator, with the graphing feature, but I find sometimes the tables are easier to work with. You're not fighting with a scale on the graph, and you don't have to go through how to actually get x-intercepts or how to go through the process on the graph to get an intersection point or an x-intercept. You just use a solver and or a table of values. So what we're going to do is let's get a table of values to see approximately where it is, and then from there we can go into the solver and find the exact point. So what we're going to do here, folks, is I'm going to make up a table of values of y equals sine of e to the x. Now one thing I need to do is I'm going to just go to mode right now. There's my mode, and if you look in the mode here, we want to make sure we're in radian mode. Yep, we are, and I'm going to keep going down. And one of the things I want to make sure that let's see, I'm in function mode, FUNC, that's important. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to make sure that I'm in what's called math print. So I can have classic mode or I can have math print. Math print's quite nice, and I'm going to explain why in a second, or actually you're going to see why. Okay, so I get out of any screen by hitting second and mode. Okay, the blue key and then mode takes me out of any screen. So there's a new feature on the most recent TI84 Plus calculators, and that's if you hit second and y equals, whoops, a daisy, alpha or second and quit, and alpha and y equals, it gives you your fraction buttons. So you just put enter if you want to have a fraction, and we put in 6/8, it should reduce it for us to 3/4. Another thing that it does, alpha window, you can go through and get an absolute value function. For example, if you have to work with speed and you've got a velocity function, nderiv is the derivative and function integrate is the integral. And then there's other sets. You won't ever use the matrix operations, and I don't believe we'll be using y variables really right now. Anyway, the big one that you'll use is alpha and function, because we're going to do lots of that, because that's all about integrals and derivatives numerically. Okay, so to enter in a table, I just put the y equals button, and I'm going to do sine. Oh, by the way, I was in radian mode. Sine of e, and e is the second function, and ln, so e to the x, and then arrow over, and end my bracket. So I've got sine of e to the x. Now what I need to do is to set up a table. So in blue, you're going to see TBLSCT, table setup. So second function, table setup, and see if we can get an idea of this. It says at our first x-intercept to the right of x equals 0.0 on the question. So table start, I'm actually going to start it at 0.1, and my delta table, that's how much it goes up with. So if I left it as 0.1, it would be 0.1, then it would be 1.1, then 2.1. I don't know how far to go. I'm going to put 0.1, go up by 0.1s, and I'm going to leave both these in auto. And now I want to look at the table. So I just press the, I press the graph button. Second, and you can see, there you go. There's a typical reason why you probably don't want to do the graph. That's a pretty funky graph, right? And because it's sine of e to the x, the period keeps getting shorter and shorter. So let's look at the table, second and table. And what I'm looking for is an x-intercept. So I need to get a y value of 0. So I go down and go down. The function's getting closer and closer. So I see the sign has changed between Okay, it looks at point between 1.1 and 1.2, the sign changes from positive to negative. So if you look at 1.1, it's 0.136, and at 1.2, it's negative 0.177. So that tells me the intersection point is around 0.1. Or 0.1, that's 0.136. And then, or sorry, the intersection point is around 1.1, 1.1, 1.2. So here's what I can do now. Now I'm going to use what's called the solver. So I know that's where the answer is approximately with the table, and now I go into the solver. So second and quit takes me out, and now I go to the solver. I go to the math button, and I go all the way to the bottom, and it's the solver. I hit enter, and now I have 0 equals sine of second function e to the exponent of x. And notice in the solver, things look a little different. It can't use what's called math print. It uses the classic mode. Okay, so that's our equation. We want to find the x-intercepts. So 0 is sine of e to the x. And we know that our answer was close to 1.1. So we're going to put that as our first guess, x equals 1.1. And then to solve this equation, I hit the alpha, the green button, followed by enter. And the answer is 1.144729, etc. So there's your intersection point. So now we have to get the value of the derivative of that point. Now, here's something I'm going to show you in terms of storing information. So let's go second and quit. So right now, the calculator has stored a value for x because the solution to that equation was x. So if I just hit the number x, or the variable x, and I hit enter, that was my answer right there. Right, that was my answer. So that's very, very, very helpful. So I know right now that it's being stored under the variable x as 1.144, etc. If I want to not have any rounding at all, so I get a really, really close to exact answer, I leave that x there and just watch what I do. So now we want to get the derivative evaluated at that point. So it's alpha, enter, and I want to do n derivative. So I go down and I hit n derivative. And I know my function, first of all, it's d by dx. So I'm getting a derivative with respect to x. And then it's sine, second function ln, so e to the x. And I'm going to do that at x equals, you know what? I shouldn't do, okay. So I can't put an x in here because then it's going to think I want to get the derivative at any value of x. So I'm actually going to have to type all this in. 1.144729886 and hit enter. And now there is the slope of the derivative of sine of e to the x at x equals 1.144, etc. And in my answer, I will go to, I truncate after 4 digits. So my correct answer is going to be negative 3.1415. Okay, I round to 3 digits with AP, or I truncate after 4. I find it's a lot easier to truncate after 4. 3.1415. And that's my slope of the tangent.